Okay, look at this. This is called the sacred timeline. This is how we expect. This is how we hope life goes. Straight and predictable. But I'm here to ruin your dreams and tell you that's not how life works. It's full of bends, it's full of those detours, it's full of those wrong turns. But here's the beauty. If you pay a bit of mind towards those wrong turns, they can tell you exactly where you were meant to be. Okay, now I want you all to think of a wrong turn that you took. This could be something sort of a literal sense, like taking a street too early. Or you could take this on how you took a wrong turn in your life, like a subject you didn't essentially like. Now keep that in your mind, because in the next few minutes, you're going to think of that mistake in a very, very different manner. Okay. We often define wrong turns as mistakes, but what really is a wrong turn? I would like to define it as something that shifts us from the plan we initially expected to follow. A sort of like life's way of saying, not this way, go to another. So, did you know that studies essentially show that 80% of people have taken a wrong turn within their careers? But we don't necessarily need statistics to tell us that, do we? I'm sure we've all felt that sense of frustration, that sense of dread when things don't go the way we imagine it to. Let me share you one of mine. It was on a morning that seemed like any other. I rode my bicycle on a path that I'd ridden countless times before. The sunlight, the air, everything seemed familiar, predictable. And yet that day, something changed. I took a turn too early. And it took slow me a while, but I eventually realized I was lost. The air felt still. Those familiar landscapes disappeared, and I was scared out of my mind. I make this sound dramatic though, but it's not really that dramatic. Ironically, it's quite the opposite. It's sort of a silence that follows. It makes you feel a bit uneasy, but at that moment, I felt quite frustrated, even foolish. Why couldn't I just pay attention? But that sensation slowly softened as I rode my bicycle. I started to pay attention in a way I'd never before. There was a mango tree full of blossoming fruits. The sound of a koha was right in the distance, far, far away. What allowed me to go into that transition into a quiet sort of awareness was when I finally stopped struggling into going into the path in which I thought I should be, and instead paid attention to where I was. Most wrong turns that we essentially take are very similar. And that wrong turn stayed with me for a long time, even to this day. Not because of the fiasco that it took me to get back home and the blasting that I got from my parents, but because it symbolically references life. Rarely in a straight line, often in curves and detours that make the familiar feel strange. You plan, you predict, you expect, and then a single shift changes said plans into an unraveling motion. Choices take us somewhere unexpected, and a single decision can change the flow right beneath our feet. The thing is, we take so much things for granted, especially when we are comfortable, under that illusion of apparently knowing what's going to happen next. But it's so amazing that it's in those moments when life tilts unexpectedly that the world feels most alive. That mango tree isn't just a tree. The wind isn't just a breeze of air. The sunlight shows us not what's familiar, but what's been there all along, just quietly waiting to be seen, at the expense of taking a wrong turn, but then taking that courage to move forward and to notice. See, the problem here is that so many wrong turns circle back to where we are. Sometimes they can lead to new paths that we didn't even know existence. Their significance is subtle, but you slowly grow on to realize that eventually they'll change how you see things. Okay, if you don't believe me, history is such a beautiful precedent to that. I have this friend, I know him very well. We go way back. This guy, Alexander Fleming. Who doesn't know? Who knows him? For sure, with a raise of hands. Good, because if you didn't, you haven't been paying attention to any of the speeches before me. We've talked about this guy a lot. This guy and his unsanitary wrong turn created a medicine that would save the lives of millions. So that detour that we take, so just being off course and having an attention span of more than 1 minute can truly make the difference all on its own. I've taken more wrong turns since that morning than I can count. They've changed who I am, and I realized that I should stop calling these wrong turns. Instead, directions to paths that I never knew existed in the first place. Sometimes they can lead to very tough decisions. Sometimes quiet realizations, but they teach me who I am and teach me to be better, stronger, clearer, and courageous. Courageous not only to take notice of things, but to even restart my life. I'm sure you've all noticed when you are lost, there's a sort of quiet connection that comes with it. You start to notice that you're part of something much larger. Those network of roads, rivers, the 7 seas, the opening atmosphere pops that little bubble that you thought you were in and expands your perspective in a way that you've never imagined. So wrong turns don't just teach you to move forward in a different manner, but it teaches you perspective. That story that you always try to embed in the world, that story of reaching that destination you have in your fixed mindset, is not necessarily that story you should pursue. Instead, it's what happens in between. When the certainty fades away, when the familiar becomes unfamiliar, and the world opens a little wider than you initially expected to. So, the next time you take a wrong turn, just please, for my sake, don't call it a mistake. Wrong turns are never failures. Instead, think of it as sort of invitations to move forward differently and to notice differently. And I'm sorry, I lied to you. The earth or the world or life isn't a straight line. Neither is it that sort of messy landscape that I initially talked about. Think of it like Google Maps, a map that redraws at every step you take. And that's the life you should follow, and you'll never think of wrong turns as a mistake ever again. Thank you. My name is Dhanuka Wijegoonaratne.